Welcome to Kind All the Time. It's Time To's podcast where we are flipping the script on mental wellness and starting the tough conversations. Real talk about resilience, emotional well-being, and building the skills that actually make a difference. It's time to start the conversation.
Hi, I'm Dr. Brian Ciccarelli, and I would like to welcome everybody to today's It's Time To podcast. We have a special guest today. Her name is Kelsey, and she is going to share her story about how her son was going through a mental health crisis and how it affected her family and what her family did. And I'm not going to elaborate anymore. I'm going to let Kelsey tell the story. So, Kelsey, why don't you elaborate a little bit on what brought you here today and your willingness to share your story?
Yes, thank you, Dr. C. So this story began, many years ago. My son is now pushing almost 30, and this began probably, I noticed, when he was 5, just some various anger issues and some other things as he began to grow. Fast forward to 7th grade, is when, as a former teacher of that grade level, you have hormones, you have what some parents and family members would think are it's just typical teenage angst. It's just hormones. It's just them going through the what a normal teenager does. But I soon found out that was not the case with my son. He was the middle child, and in between an older sister and an older brother. And what I noticed were signs of increasing anger for what I perceived over nothing. Distance, not wanting to talk to us very much, only wanting to be with his friends, and not really problem solving. And just a change in the little boy that I brought home so many years ago, and the toddler, and then becoming this teenager that I didn't recognize. And so I quickly thought, this is not typical from what I noticed all the years that I've taught that particular grade level, to comparing to and talking to my friends. And this was many years ago, before mental health had really come into the light that it is now. However, there still is quite a big stigma. So I didn't really know what to do. I reached out first to my pediatrician, and that's one of the places, and at the end we can kind of talk about, where you can go. But I started with the pediatrician because I didn't know what to do. And at that point in time, there weren't places like the Lindner Center and other facilities that are around, because again, he's pushing 30. So I reached out to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician assessed and put us in touch with a pediatric therapist. So we did that for his 7th grade year. And then when he moved into his 8th grade year, the anger and the mood bursts continued to get worse. At that point in time, we had a severe mental health crisis with suicide attempts and other mood behaviors that I had never seen before. So we actually had to admit him to a 3-day treatment facility, and then we got psychologists involved. From there, his behaviors kind of leveled out. Again, it was just constant anger, withdrawal, and just not really wanting to talk to anybody but his friends.
So can I stop you there for a second?
Yes, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
So let me backtrack for 1 second. So did anybody in school, the counselors, any of the teachers, ever notice any of these changes at school where they reached out to you and said, I think your son may be having a problem?
No, and that's what was so frustrating, is I was the one that noticed it. I was the one that pushed. He was labeled at that point in time where he was at as a bad kid. He's just causing problems. He's just acting out. And the things that he was doing at school were minor, maybe talking out of turn at class, maybe trying to be the class clown a little bit. And he had leadership qualities. It's just sometimes he didn't. I would always say to him, let's use these for use your superpowers for good. And so at times that's not what he did. So then that fueled his anger even more, and his mood. He didn't know what to do with his moods, and it was always, I'm mad. And now there's so many things out there where kids can talk that through. No one came. I was the one that noticed it. And so I had to, again, this is a while ago.
Sure, this is
15 years ago.
right?
Yeah. So I was the one that had to go and look for all of these things and
Right.
basically invent the wheel. He never received anything
Right.
from at all from the first school that he was in when he was in 7th and 8th grade.
Sure.
And then when he had his really big behavior that involved all of us at home, that I had to get the police involved, we pulled him out of the school that he was in, because I figured it wasn't going to work there, even though the behavior was directed towards us. I put him in a different school, and he was better there, but they also had some systems in place and teachers in place that knew what I was going through, so they worked with us. But he also at that point in time had a psychologist, and we were trying to figure out what we could do with medication, and things like that. But as medications, they take years to have an effect. And it's not a quick fix. And that's something, as a side note, I have to say to parents, you're not going to have it. There is not a Band-Aid. There is not a quick fix. It will take years for your child to figure out for what it will work for them, whether
Right.
it is, outpatient, inpatient, just therapy with, weekly medication, whatever. There is no quick, easy fix. And that's what I learned. And that's what was devastating, because you want to fix your kid. You want to
Sure.
take them like to the emergency room. Oh, you're better. You can go home.
Right.
This is years in process.
Well, and I think that's a good point that we try to bring up as well, is that
Yeah.
mental health is a lifelong issue.
It is. Yes.
It's not something you could make better. Like if you break your ankle
Right.
and you say, I'm going to put you in a cast 6
Right.
weeks, you'll be better.
Right.
It's something that's a constant struggle.
And you can't see it. So
Sure.
they just, before these types of behaviors, and then eventually these behaviors in his mental health, because he was trying to figure out what was going on with all of his moods, with his ADHD, with his OCD, with all of these other acronyms, whatever you want, it became, he would try to mask it with substance abuse. So when we move into his high school years, he completely tanked, because of many of the things that we were trying to do. He either wouldn't take it, he would go to the therapy, but he wouldn't open up. And so we hadn't really found the right person for him to do the therapy with, because they have to have a connection with whoever their therapist is. And so that he got progressively worse. And the first time that we took him and he had to be hospitalized for a 72-hour hold, I will never forget, the head psychologist said, things are going to get worse before they get better, significantly worse. And he was not kidding. And at that point in time, he was 13 or 14. And boy, oh boy, it got worse. But you got to hang in there. And that's why I am here with you, to tell you it will get better, but it takes a village, and you can't just bury your head in the sand, because they need help, and kids are screaming for it. At least now there's things out there, but because of his mental health, and I had a family member that had substance abuse and addiction issues as well. And so back 15 years ago, it was just you had substance abuse. It wasn't really that correlation between mental health and substance abuse. It's just you were an alcoholic, you were a drug addict. And so now that correlation comes with it, because you're trying to mask that. That's all, especially if you're 17 and you've got all these big emotions and you've got all these, huge addiction issues, whether it's an addiction to working out or it's an addiction to whatever, you don't know how to deal with it. And kids need, as I call it, tools for their toolbox.
Right.
And, that's what you have to find. It could be medication, it may be therapy.
So you had other children as well in the house.
Right.
How did you, as a parent, manage a job, your marriage, two other children that require your attention, in addition to helping your son get the treatment he needed?
Right. That was a tough one. So he was the middle, so I had an older and I had a younger. The older, they're all a decent amount of years apart. The older, she had spells where, because she was getting ready to graduate from high school, so she knew that she was, headed out. She wanted to fix everything. She wanted to fix what people were saying in the community about him. She wanted to fix, what was going on in the house. But then she also had a lot of anger, not to me, but to him, a lot. And so sometimes if he would, act up, she would kind of stir the pot a little bit. But she also was the protector when these sometimes very serious, scary behaviors in our home. I mean, when people say you don't know what goes on behind closed doors, I mean, I lived in a pretty affluent suburb where no one had a clue what was going on. And I hid it because I was ashamed. And I raised all three kids exactly the same. So she wanted to become the protector of the youngest, but she was so busy all the time. And then the youngest was so confused, looked up to his brother, but had no idea what was going on, was afraid, and ended up hating his brother too. So it was a balancing act that was very, very hard to do. So we made sure that there were options for therapy, talk therapy for them too. I also had myself in therapy as well, because you had to talk it out. You had to have tools for our own toolbox because, I suffer from anxiety. And my son, we found out he suffers from anxiety. So all of the things that he had affected all of us, especially the youngest, who was 11 or 12 at the time and didn't understand a thing except violence. Why is he being this way? I don't understand. And still going to school every single day and masking it all. So it was just a lot of keeping the communication open between myself and their dad with both of them, and that it's going to be okay, and reassuring, and trying to keep their lives as normal as we possibly could.
So I'm assuming that there was a lot of family discussions, family times, letting them know what was going on with your one son.
Correct.
And that probably helped them deal with it and cope with the situation as it maybe got worse. Right.
But it was also hard, I will say, as it started to trickle out, as we tried to keep it insulated. I wanted to keep it insulated more so for my youngest, to not have the repercussions of people judging, because they do. I was not successful with that. And unfortunately, he ended up having a lot of his friends pull away from him, almost as if he was contagious, as if they were around him, they would catch what his brother had. And that was really hard to deal with. And those were the things that I had him in therapy for. I don't understand why so-and-so, can't play with me. I don't understand why. So we kept him very active. He was an athlete. We kept him very active in his athletics. And he just we were a very close family. So we did a lot of listening, a lot of talking, and yes, kept them abreast of what was going on with their brother. But it was very heavy, especially for my youngest.
Well, I know you and I had chatted after one of our presentations, and you had discussed this with me and how you wanted to be involved
Yeah.
and share your story. And I guess my question, looking back, would you have done anything different in your situation? And looking at people in a situation, in a very similar situation to yours now, where there are so many more resources and people are less reluctant to talk about
Yeah.
mental health issues, what would you have done different, or would you have done the same as you did? Because it sounds like you
Yeah.
approached it from a medical standpoint first,
Yes.
your pediatrician,
Yes.
and I think that would have been a great option.
Yes. Yes.
But looking back and looking now, if
Right.
it happened in 2025
Yes.
as opposed to 2010,
Right. One, I had to get over my ego of the embarrassment of what did I do wrong raising my child? What did I do wrong? I needed to get over that. And I even had my oldest child say, "You didn't do anything. It's it's who he is." So I had to get rid of what are people going to think about me? What are people going to think about me? And also, but also, I still was trying to protect all of them. So I should have quickly gotten over that ego part of it. And I should have I should have pushed the school more for potential resources. I think it's also just my personality that I will just do it myself. But there wasn't anything. So, because no one will take care of your child or watch your child like you will as the parent. And so, I would have not hit it, I think, because we say that it's acceptable, but there's still, oh, well. And I mean, even as an educator, there are still teachers, there are still admin that still will say, oh, that kid's crazy, and they still have that label on it. So I would have taken the ego out of it faster. And two, I would have reached out more to the schools.
So if that's happening now, a parent recognizes that their son or daughter is struggling. You know that something isn't right.
Right.
Who does a parent call at the school? Do they talk to the principal, the teacher, the counselor? Do you have a meeting with them? Does the child need to know that you're talking to somebody at the school?
Right. I think, it varies by age too, but so many schools now have multiple layers for mental health. And what's interesting is, in the upper grades, so you say 7 through 12, the counselor is more of the guidance counselor. They're more of the testing. They're more of the career. They're more of the college readiness, those sorts of things. Same with really the psychologist. It's more of the educational testing. But now, most schools have some sort of external liaison, behavioral health person that's in their buildings, which is fantastic. They'll contract out, and parents and families can see those, and they will be seen. Those kids are seen weekly by these partners through Miami Valley, through various behavioral solutions. So my advice is, I would reach out to the teacher and just say, hey, are you noticing? These are the things I'm seeing at school. What do you see? Because kids can be totally different.
Sure.
I would not wait at all. I would not wait. Time is of the essence, because if you think it, just do it. It's kind of like see something, say something.
Right.
And then whatever counselor, I would reach out to them. It's not going to hurt to reach out to the principal too, because the principal works in tandem with all of them. But I think your teacher is your first connection to, that's who they see every day.
Sure.
That's who's with them 8 hours a day. And I remember being in the classroom, I wanted to know if there's some extenuating circumstances going on at home, holy cow, let me know. And I will do my very best to, keep an eye out or whatever. And those were some of the things, I kept quiet and kept secret from the teachers that he had. And I should have said something,
Sure.
and I didn't because of my ego and embarrassment. And I thought I was protecting him. So I would go to the teacher. I would reach out to, the counselor. If there isn't a counselor, get the principal. What sort of, interventions do you have for mental health? Because most schools districts have some sort of behavioral extension of their building, and then they can get you in touch with various resources inside the school, and then outpatient, inpatient, and then residential. And there's plenty of those around here where they never existed before.
Sure. So when we give our parent presentation, we always stress that it's important to ask your child, hey, are you doing okay?
Right.
Are you self-harming?
Right.
And sometimes you have to ask the question, are you thinking of taking your own life?
Right.
Is there something that you look back and say, did you ever have that conversation with your child? Did you ever ask them if they needed your help early on in the process?
So, again, in early on, years ago, it was one of those things where the early research was, if you talk about it, they're going to do it. Well, research now shows that's not the case. If you talk about it, that's not going to make them want to go ahead and do it. So I never asked at all.
So would you do that differently now?
I would, and I have now with students, friends, other children that I know or have been in contact with. And the first thing that, you ask is then, do you have a plan? There's a whole rigmarole of because I did some training on it, of what you need to do. And then if they do have a plan, then that's when you really have to get some action. And there's various, different sorts of surveys and things that one's called the SBIRT that they can take to assess that. But when he had, I found something, and it was, I won't be here, such and so. I did address that when I found it. And I had the capability, because it was something that it was so hard to even think about because he had already tried it.
So he did have suicidal ideation.
Oh yeah, but it wasn't that I brought it up.
Sure.
He was in the middle of, and so when we had some treatment, what we had from them doing various assessments and evaluation is they felt that he didn't want to, but he was the type of, the way that his mental health and the way that his evaluations were coming back is that it's not that he intended to do it or wanted to do it, but it would happen by accident and he would never come back. It would be an attention-seeking thing. And that was our concern. So, and there are kids that are like that. It's not, and there are kids that I'm doing it. So once I found that out, I started having the conversation of, I would miss you. What would I do without you? Because I learned you can't say to them, because they can do it. You can't do that. It's more of the conversation of, wow, I'm sorry you feel that way. What can I do? I would miss you so much. You're so special to me. Because if you can get them in those first, because they usually have those ideations for, a matter of maybe an hour. And then if you can do that conversation and you get help on the way, which is one of the ways, the way that we got him into the residential, is just me talking him down. So, but I would have that conversation today. Yes.
So getting back to that, where a parent is recognizing these changes in their child, would you say that it's important for you as a parent to start that conversation with your child immediately upon recognizing they're acting different. Hey, I notice you've been acting differently. I notice that you're not interested in your sports anymore. I notice that your grades are suffering.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about it? Is that a good
Yes.
starting point, you think?
Yes. And one of the things, as I was thinking and taking notes and for what I wanted to say, is communication, and I have that in bold there. It is key. Even if, and he was the one, and actually it's interesting because he communicates even more now. Like he's a communicator. Took a long time. You got to communicate, and you've got to look for ways to sneakily get it out of them. But yes, you have to find a way, and especially with boys, what I notice is if they're in some kind of an activity, maybe you're playing a game with them, or you're playing cards, but if you can have their hands doing something, or you can have them doing something, a puzzle, if they're younger, they usually are kind of taken off guard and will answer your questions. But you have to, because they're going to say no, but you've got to get a pulse for what there is. And there's so many things now, like there's a whole book and there's a whole thing on emotional intelligence and, the mood meter. And there's all these different things on the zones of regulation with little kids and red, blue, yellow, green, things that I never had for my kid at a younger age, because he always just said angry. Well, maybe you're not angry. Maybe you're in the red because you're frustrated. But there is so much out there about emotional intelligence, and kids like him just needed to label it and recognize it.
Right.
And having that conversation with your kid will get them to, oh, but you is as hard as it is, because you love them so much, you cannot ignore it because you know your kid the best. Start the conversation. Start it early.
So from what I've heard so far, I kind of want to summarize a few things.
Sure.
One is the communication thing.
Absolutely.
I mean, as a parent, you have to not be afraid to ask them questions,
The hard questions, right.
especially when you see they're not doing
Yes.
well. The second thing that I'm hearing is, for you as a family, it was very hard to overcome the stigma.
Yeah.
And even your friends, I
Yes.
remember this conversation, once they found out that your child had an issue, they kind of kept you at arm's
They
length.
did. Yes.
Even
they
you
did.
as the parent.
Oh, absolutely.
Did anybody reach out to you and say, hey, if you need help, we can help? We've had a similar circumstance, because you're here doing this podcast to hopefully help another parent or even a child
Right.
that hears this podcast
Right.
that says, wow, this really resonates with me. Was there anybody that reached out to you that said, I've gone through something similar and I would like to help?
I mean, I hate to say it. I had two very close friends that reached out to me to, if you need anything, I'm here for you, but we're not necessarily in the same exact situation, because ours was very intense, but they were just kind of that moral support, which was great, but not in the mental health sort of situation and addiction that in alcoholism that we were. So no, unfortunately.
So you and your family went through it yourselves,
Yes.
pretty much.
Yes.
Fast forwarding now from the time that you had this major crisis in your family to where you are now.
Right.
How is the dynamics with your child with the other siblings? Where is it, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I am very happy to say that the three of them are very, very close, which is it means everything to me. They text all the time. They have a group. I guess it's called Snap. You can Snapchat each other in a group or something. They do that. The two boys hang out daily, which is amazing to me, because the biggest effect and impact was on the youngest brother. But they're thick as thieves now. Just so close.
Has the younger brother exhibited any signs of mental health
No.
issues?
Just a little bit of anxiety, but not to the extent of no. Mm-mm.
So the
Absolutely not.
family is now probably more on solid ground
Yeah,
than it's ever been.
right.
Okay.
Fingers crossed. We just take it one day at a time.
Right? Because
One
it's
day
an
at a
ongoing
time.
process.
It is.
It never goes away.
It is. And he, and I did this in my classroom. He works out. He does a lot of mindfulness. He does a lot of educating himself, and he does a lot of things that are also good for his body, that also help, that are good for his soul. So like whether it's working out, doing those kinds of things, which is what he needed.
And I think that we as an organization has also recognized that we want to provide younger people with coping skills.
Absolutely.
It's part of their journey, whether it be
is.
journaling, running,
Walking the
exercise,
dog.
walking,
Yes. Yep.
whatever it is. And so that's great that he still has found something that
Right.
helps him. Well, this has been an amazing conversation, but I would like to end it with something that every parent needs to hear and would probably ask you, what do I need to do when I first see signs
Okay.
of my child
Right.
exhibiting behavior? What action do I need to take?
Right. Well, I mean, when I look back, one of the things I wish I would have done is keep a journal, and write it down digitally, something just to kind of keep track of the various behaviors that I saw. Because again, my oldest exhibited nothing. So this was new for me. So to keep track of, could it be food? Could it be because I thought it was, I started taking things away. Could it be the dyes? I took the red dye away. So keep a journal, so that you can take that somewhere to your pediatrician and say, here's what I'm noticing.
It's great advice.
Could this be something that is environmental? Is it something, whatever? That's my advice to you. That's the first thing. I would keep some sort of a journal as you watch your child. And because typically these things usually start at school age, and they are really going to rear their head up in junior high, because they're becoming teenagers. I would get somebody involved immediately, pediatrician maybe when they're younger, and I would reach out to, if you don't feel comfortable having your pediatrician recommend, some sort of a counselor, I would go to your schools, because the schools now are so equipped, being in different districts like I have been, they are so equipped with various either resources, and again, those will be posted, and a lot of those resources I've gotten from the various schools I've been in. I would go to your school, and I would not stop. I would keep pushing, and I would keep pushing. And if they are too busy, I would say, where's your resources? And I would contact every single one of those resources until you can be seen, because one thing about mental health is you are on a wait list for whatever doctor forever. But you might as well get on that wait list.
Right.
I would not. So I would journal. I'd get a hold of my pediatrician. Next step, get a hold of my school. Talk about your child. They're all individual, and then start asking for what resources they have for you to do the outside of school stuff. And then just push, because many of these items are not covered by, your medical health care. But some are, and you can look for ways around it, but, it's not going to go away.
Right.
And it's not going to be an easy fix.
Well,
Yes.
Kelsey, I think that I applaud you on your bravery to come and tell your story.
Sure.
And I know that you're doing it so that other people don't have to
Absolutely.
go through
Absolutely.
what you did as a family.
Right.
And the resources that Kelsey referenced will be posted on our website, www.itstime2.org, when we have this podcast aired, if you will. So I want to thank you again. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your help. and look forward to all that you're doing in the schools to help other people as well.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining our conversation and helping us change the narrative around mental wellness. Remember, you're not alone, and every step towards better mental health matters. For more resources, visit itstime2.org. And until next time, keep being kind all the time.